That's my baby. That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored! They did it!
Left.
What the hell was that? Oh, yeah!
What the fuck are you talking about?
Welcome, everybody. Tuesday night, bringing at you Lazy Booking live on a2dradio.com. I am Chrome, Maddie, Ritz, joined by the former WWE Women's Champion, the champ coach herself, Candice Michelle. We're really looking forward to talking to you, Candice. Thanks for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. First and foremost, we want to show some love to our sponsors. We got to make sure that we acknowledge it's a really tough time for people right now in the world with COVID going on, mental health and addiction issues, major issue in this country. So we're happy to support the Counseling Center and Sunrise Detox. So for yourself or anybody that you know, if you need an outlet to reach out to see what your options are in terms of getting the necessary care, please dial the number on your screen here, 856-651-8117. Again, 856-651-8117, Sunrise Detox, Counseling Center. We love them over there, and we want you guys to take care of yourselves. So, also brought to you by our doctor, Dr. Paul Vidal at Specialized Physical Therapy. You can find him in Burlington and Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and find him on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. No appointment necessary. He's the best in the business. We love him. So make sure you check him out, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. And hey, Body Check Wellness, boys. That's the sponsor for our poll question. And obviously, Body Check Wellness, use a promo code A2D, and they're going to get you 20% off. And when former Philadelphia Flyer joins Maddie and the boys on Thursday nights for Hockey Happy Hour, they have a special package that they sell for 40% off. So make sure you're checking them out at bodycheckwellness.com. Our poll question brought to you by Body Check Wellness. Women's revolution in pro wrestling is the most important era of the last 20 years. Agree, disagree? Candice, you know a little bit about this. So we want to check in. We want to check in with you. You know, there's been a lot of different things that have transpired over the years, and we always talk about PG eras and this and that. But I personally believe that the most defining era has been the rise of women's wrestling in pro wrestling and having these strong, powerful women figures who can be wonderful role models for people out there. And we want to get your opinion on that. Do you agree or disagree that it is the most important year of the last 20 years?
Well, I think nothing important happens without the work, right? And the work happens from all the previous eras. So this era wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for all the previous eras. So saying it's the most important era, I don't think I necessarily agree with that, but I'm very proud of where it's come. And I think it's taken all the other eras to get eras. That's a really hard word to say for me for some reason. All the other eras to get to this point, like we had to do so much more back then. We didn't have those opportunities back then, but every, woman that came before paved the way in some way, shape, or form for where it is today. So I'm happy it's there, but the most important, I don't know.
So, I mean, you're an important figure. Obviously you're right. So many of you were such important figures and blazed trails. How proud are you for your contributions? And we're going to go through those as we go along, but how proud are you to kind of sit back and know that you were such an important part to get us? And it's really not just here, because for the work that you put in personally, and we're excited to talk about that, your work never stops. You're empowering not just women, people in general on a daily basis. And how proud are you of that work that you've put in?
I'm really proud of it. And I think that everybody just has to look at that part that you contribute, because we can all look at our past in any career and really just think, oh, I could have done this. I should have done that. I wish I knew this. But at that moment in my life, I gave everything I had for that job and that career and that purpose. So I'm so proud of the opportunities I had and that I took full advantage of them. And I'm so proud of where it's led to today. You know, I'm not saying I am the complete reason for that, but I know I played a role in all of that. You know, they don't have to do a putty match nowadays, and that I'll take credit for. I did it for them.
That's true. That's very, very true. So Candice, you grew up in Wisconsin, Packer girl. Ugh.
Yes.
I do love me some Aaron Rodgers. I'm not going to lie, but you know, you grew up in Wisconsin, and then, you know, you eventually migrated to California, and, you know, you began a modeling and acting career. And can you talk about what that whole process was like for you?
Yeah, I was, when I was growing up, I actually worked at a roller skating rink. It was my very first job. And while I was there, John Robert Powers, which is this modeling school, came in, and whoever won a contract, or whoever won the contest, won a contract for 1 year to go to the school. And at that time, I mean, I had looked into the school. I wanted to do modeling work, and we just I didn't come from money. There was no way I could afford doing that. So when this opportunity came to the roller skating rink, we had to do an evening look, a swimsuit look, and answer a question. So we go, we do it, and I had this girl who was kind of, I guess, my arch enemy, I would say. We both liked the same boy back then, so we weren't the best of friends. So it comes down to a tie between me and her. And then they say, okay, well, we're at a roller skating rink. And I did all the fancy skating, by the way, all the dance skating that you would see on Venice Beach. That was me.
So many of these kids don't understand the roller skating rink era. It was so great.
It was so great. Like, I love that part of my life. But they said, okay, whoever goes out there, you're going to go out there, me and my arch enemy, and we are going to have a dance off, and that will determine the winner. No pressure, right? So she takes her best friend out there. Now, when you have two people doing something, it just looks cooler. You can do turns together, you know, it's synchronized. And I'm thinking, wow, this is really a disadvantage. So I go out there, I do my thing. She does her thing with her best friend. And at the end, I end up winning the contest because I did it so low. And I didn't take somebody else to kind of show off with. And that was the beginning of this journey. I went to the school. I learned how to pose and model and walk the catwalk, all that fun stuff, which led me to an audition in Los Angeles. And here I am 22 years later. Wow, that's a long time. Did I just age myself?
Oh, no, not at all.
I mean, 5 years later.
So the one really notable, early notable mark that you had was the Godaddy commercial, which everybody talks about. And obviously we just had the Super Bowl that passed. So can you talk about how that kind of came about?
Yeah, so I was auditioning, you know, pretty much on a regular basis. And this audition came in, and the thing that was weird about this one is it was a virtual one. So back then, virtual was very futuristic, you know, It wasn't like a normal thing. And they were interviewing people, auditioning people in all the major cities like Chicago, New York, Miami, and Los Angeles. And the guy, we had to do a lot of improv. And I just had a lot of improv skills and just kind of nailed that audition. And from there, we went on to film the commercial, which, as you know, they dropped the commercial. So we had two of them. And one was pulled. And I didn't even know really it was pulled. I was watching it and I thought, oh, maybe GoDaddy didn't pay for the second one. You know, they told me they were going to air it twice, but, you know, it's like millions of dollars per commercial that you put in there. So I'm like, maybe things didn't happen. And the next morning I wake up and I had like hundreds of voicemails and I was freaked out. I thought somebody died back at home.
Wow.
And I listened to my voicemails and it's like everybody on the planet wanted an interview with me. I never really believed in a big break, but that was really a big break for me.
Wow. Maddie?
Yeah, so obviously after doing that, eventually you do wind up getting into WWE, and it was kind of interesting because it literally was kind of like, okay, GoDaddy commercial, and then boom, in WWE. It was kind of like out of nowhere. What was it like getting into WWE, and how did that come about?
Well, actually, I was in WWE before the GoDaddy commercial.
Okay.
And yeah, so I was already under contract with them. I wasn't doing much, but I was there. And because I came from Hollywood, I just had a different contract than a lot of people. I had more of a Hollywood contract that allowed me to do other things. And so having that GoDaddy commercial, I remember it aired and it was a big ordeal. And I come back to Raw and I'm pretty proud of what happened, but I didn't understand how that affected WWE at the time. And I get pulled into Vince's office with him and Stephanie McMahon. And they're like, so what about this commercial? I'm like, oh yeah, I did a GoDaddy commercial, so cool. And they're like, if you do anything like this, you need to let us know. And obviously I had no idea it was gonna be as big as what it was. And then I got an offer to go on Jay Leno from this, which was on a Monday night for Monday Night Raw. And they're like, no, sorry, you can't go. You have to be on Monday Night Raw. And I'm like, I just got asked to be on the Jay Leno show. I'm going on the Jay Leno show. Like, please. And they're like, they okayed it, but they're just like, hey, if you have something like this, let us know because they could use it, you know, as an opportunity. And then eventually they did use it.
Gotcha.
Andy?
So when they bring you into the WWE, they bring you in as a makeup artist. How do you transition from being backstage to getting into the ring? Because I listened to you on your podcast, Go Champs, and you talked about when you signed, you thought about you were going to be the next champion, right? Nobody else had thought about that, but you did. So what was the process like getting from being backstage to in the ring, wrestling?
Yeah, so once I started working on Monday Night Raw, then they added me to the house shows. So that was really my first opportunity, you know, was getting an idea of like how things work backstage, just getting my nose wet. I was so green in the business. And when we would go to the house shows, I would just show up early. And so I'd show up early when the refs were setting up the ring. And as you guys probably know, all the refs are super trained wrestlers. And so I would just start picking their brain and I'd get in the ring with them and they were awesome with me and they would get in the ring with me and teach me moves. And I started to learn how to bump and do moves there before our show began. And then when I come home to Los Angeles, there was this ring. I found a wrestler on the indie scene, a couple different rings, and they would, we'd go this one. I paid $3 a day. If you haven't heard this story, I mean, it was like broken down chicken coops. I mean, it was half inside this garage, half outside of it. And I would just go there and just start hitting the ropes and just learning. And I just kept doing that. And then finally, people noticed it, right? And so the big dogs, you know, I remember rest his soul, Umaga, getting in there and taking a bump with me, you know, and Carlito, and even Hunter one time, you know, all of these guys, you know, started to say, hey, she's not just here because it's a TV show. She wants to get in. And then it slowly just progressed from there.
Wow. Yeah, and it did. It definitely progressed big time. And you kind of touched on it before where, you know, we talked about, you know, they had the gimmicky matches at first. And you know, that was kind of an unusual era, but you were given the opportunity then to start having those one-on-one matches and you were given the opportunity to win the championship. And can you talk about that transition to where I feel like, you know, the presence of people like yourself, Trish Stratus, Lita, we started seeing an emergence of Beth Phoenix and all these people who started to come in where this is, for me, this is kind of where we started to see that change. Can you talk about what that time was like?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a very specific moment, and I remember actually learning the philosophy of a wrestling match. And I was never taught that. You know, I didn't go to wrestling school. I didn't come up in the indies. You know, when I watched as a kid, these guys were like superheroes and characters. I didn't know there was a way you could become one of these people. And so I totally forgot the question. Tell me again.
Oh,
I'm going crazy.
It's okay. No, around that time where, you know, we talked about how all those gimmicky matches were kind of it seemed like it was almost like the exclusive thing for like a year. And then, you know,
I remember remember. Okay, thank you. Okay, I've been homeschooling all day, so
That's
I'm pulling
okay.
my mind together here. Okay, so I remember there was this moment where I learned the philosophy of a wrestling match. I learned that every match has an entrance, which obviously I knew that part. That part I was good at. But then there's the lockup, and there's a shine, and there's the cutoff, and then there's the heat, you know? Like, when I learned how that went, I could start to process in my head how to do the dance. Because before that, if I was in a match, it was very choreographed. You know, it was like, okay, you're going to do this move, and then this move, and then this move. And like, I just thought of it over and over and over in my head, and I go out there and do it. But there wasn't the feeling that connected me to the crowd. And then being out there, like those little things where, for me, the two people that impacted my career the most training-wise was Ricky Steamboat and Arn Anderson. And that was when Beth Phoenix and I really got into some serious matches. And I remember them coming to us and really working details with us. Like when you're in the hold, how you connect with one person, you know, connecting with all the people there, you never connect. But if you get one person, it's magic. And those little things help just change my whole viewpoint on how to wrestle. And then by those days, you know, Beth and I would go out there, you know, we'd have like a couple moves planned and the finish plan, but she would call everything out there. We had to learn how to listen to the crowd, you know, how to get the crowd to hate her and get the crowd to fight for me, because for the longest time, they didn't want to get behind me. I was the girl from Hollywood, you know? And so getting to that point was all based on the philosophy of a wrestling match.
Wow. Maddie?
Obviously, you know, getting into that whole situation with Beth Phoenix, you know, you guys did that storyline for a while. Eventually, you won the women's championship. And eventually, you did lose the title back to Beth. But during that time, what was it like, you know, having, you know, obviously you talked about, you know, Beth calling the match and everything. But what was it like being the champion for that period of time and being on Raw and being the woman that represented the women's division for a period of time?
Well, it's an awesome accomplishment to become the women's champ. You know, as you guys know, that is not given to anybody. It's hard work and dedication. And when Vince sees that, that's when that happens. But the reality of it is I actually prefer not to be the champion, because chasing something is much easier than holding on to something. And I'm good at chasing things. I chase dreams all the time. And working with Beth was just so magical, because I'm great at selling shit. I'm great at getting beat up. You know, like, I'm not great at my comeback. My comeback is simple. You know, it's not just like, whoa, look at her flipping and flying. I tried it. I was injured. But if you give me a punch or I take a bump for you, I can sell the shit out of that move. And it's weird on what I do now with coaching, because I was the best in the heat, you know, when just the living crap is getting beat out of me. And I just talk to people about that all the time now, because in life, we all go through the philosophy of a wrestling match. You know, we all have a lockup. You know, maybe you're battling depression. You guys are talking about this suicide today. You know, maybe you're battling losing a job or finances. That's a lockup, you know, and then you transition into getting a little shine. You're like, okay, I got some interviews. I'm doing good. Okay, I'm going to get this job. And then all of a sudden, bam, it's a cutoff. And nobody hires you.
Yeah.
And then you go into this heat where, like, it's just like you got bills to pay and you can't. And then you lose your girlfriend or boyfriend. And then you're going to lose your house. And, you know, it's like, bam, bam. It's like, and that's where, like, that suicide thing comes in, right? Because people feel like there's no hope. But there is. You just got to keep going. Because every time there's a comeback, like every freaking time there's a comeback, it always happens. And, you know, you get that hold and there's that moment of like, well, I got a breath. What do I do? And it's that, just that little step, and bam, before you know it, you got a job. You're paying off this bill. You got your house. You get your girl back, you know? But it's like, if you give up in the heat, you're gonna live there, you know. And so you can't give up. You got to keep fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Sorry,
totally.
I got a little passionate there.
Honestly, it's so indicative to everything that you're talking about. That, and especially when we start getting into good champs and the good coach, or I'm sorry, champ coach and all that, it's really going to show. But I mean, I would agree with you in that, you know, there's always something to fight back for and to continue to strive for, right, to chase. So I think that you're spot on with that. Yeah, Maddie, you had to follow?
I was just going to say, I think we got a preview of one of the live training sessions. So everybody kind of knows a little bit of what it's like, just a little bit.
God, Andy.
So you talk about comebacks, and I want to talk about your comeback in after your injury when you hurt your clavicle. What was that moment like for you? Because when I think of your career, that's one moment for me that really stands out because you got such a huge reaction that night when you came back. What was that moment like being able to come back?
So for me personally, I mean, obviously coming back was everything I wanted. You know, you get that wrestling mindset, like you made it to a certain level and you don't want to let that go for anything, not any injury, not any body part that's hurting. You push all of that so far aside that when I came back the first time after being knocked out and my clavicle broken, I literally talked the doctors into letting me wrestle. Like, it was still broken. And that first drop kick that I did, I shattered it. And it just kind of led down this path, which at that time was really difficult. Like, I remember having surgery, laying on the couch, being in the heat, right? I was like depressed. I was sad. I was like, in 1 second, it was taken away from me. The years of working, of hitting the ropes and taking the bumps and finally getting somewhere, it was just gone. But the reality is I had my biggest win because it ended my wrestling career. I promise you I would never have quit. I would be like the people that stay there forever. I loved it so much, but I would have never had a family. And my best title is being a mother to 3 girls. And it was God's plan. It was that journey of, you know, I pushed through the heat and I thought that wrestling was where I was supposed to be and be around these legends who have been in it for 10, 20 years. But that wasn't my journey. And I'm grateful that God took me out because it's led me to new chapters for myself.
Yeah, and you know, unfortunately, your career did end. But fast forward 2017, end of 2019, 2017, you had an opportunity to come. I believe the show was in our backyard here in Philly, House of Hardcore, right? Where you had a retirement match with, I believe it was with Victoria.
Victoria,
yeah. I know you guys are really close, and you were able to have that retirement match. And then also in 2019, to have the ability to come back and have that kind of like little moment there in WWE, back on WWE television as one of the official 24/7 champions, another champ status for you. But can you talk about what that was like to kind of, you know, and I don't know if you'll ever get back into a Royal Rumble or Women's Evolution pay-per-view if they have a second, but just if that's it, to have that chance to kind of go out on your own terms.
Well, I'll never forget the day Tommy Dreamer called me because we're really close friends, but we text here and there or we see each other at a signing. It's not like we talk on the phone. So when he called, I was kind of like, why is he calling? And I'm like, I better see if he's okay. So I answered the phone. And he's like, hey, champ, so I was thinking that you needed to have your retirement match. And I was like, oh. He's like, listen, we'll make it simple. We'll make it easy. We'll have it in your hometown of Wisconsin. That's where it was.
Oh, it was in Wisconsin. Okay.
Yeah. And he's like, you know, we'll do like an intergender tag team match, you know, like with my friends. It'll be really lighthearted, you know, give a little talk at the end. I was like, okay, all right, well, let me just process it. And I knew I needed to do a singles match, but I also had not been in the ring in 10 years. So my mind is going a little, you know how much it hurts when you take a bump. I was like, and I'm a lot older, you know. So I called him. I said, all right, I'll do a singles match with Victoria or Lisa. And I want to give a speech at the end because that's when I was starting to work on my speaking career. So I was training a lot in there. So I thought, okay, this is a stage for me to use this opportunity to tell my story a little bit. So I called on my dear friend Rikishi, who has a wrestling school out here in Los Angeles. And wow, I mean, I just love the Samoans. I think I'm part Samoan in another life, but they're just like dear, dear family to me. I have so much respect and admiration for all of them. And they took me into the school, and I literally left every day crying. Like, I didn't even hide it this time. You know, but before you hide it, you pretend it doesn't hurt. This time I'm like, it hurts. And it hurts really bad. Like, I can't turn my neck. What am I doing back in the ring? And I'm training with his students who are incredible, and they're just smacking the mat. And then I got to climb to the top rope, and all the fears come back, right? Like,
yeah.
And you're like, wow, like, I didn't realize how traumatized I actually was because I just kept moving so fast. And I just had to sit there and really process that. But Tommy said something to me that was really cool for me. He said, not only do I need to say goodbye to the fans, but he said, you should give the fans an opportunity to say goodbye to you. And I never thought of it like that, you know, like, I don't put myself over like that. But there, I was like, wow, that's really, really special because I connect so deeply with people when I meet them, and to have that opportunity. So that was an incredible opportunity to have that match with Lisa. We had so much fun and awesome with my family there, you know, so I'm so appreciative of Tommy and House of Hardcore. And then, what was the next one you brought up? Oh, the 24/7 championship. So this was so cool for me. And this is what I coach about all the time. People don't see the work I do at home, right? I don't see what you guys do every day, day in and day out, right? You get on this show, somebody might think, oh, they're so lucky they got this show. All they do is show up and start talking and make money, you know? But the reality is like you were telling me, Michael, is for 2 years you had 30 people listening. Yeah. And, you know, it's the work behind the scenes to get to where it's at now. And when I got there, to the show, I just assumed, like most of the shows, that I'd be with other legends in a pre-tape where I don't say anything and I'm barely acknowledged. But I'm happy to go back. I love the company. I love my friends. I love the people. And it's a great opportunity. So I was all in. And when they told me I was going to win this title, the 24/7 championship, I was like, all right. When you put in the work, the opportunities show up. And it's just what you know, that's who I am 24/7. I only had it for like 2 seconds, but it was a moment of recognition, right? So when I come back home, I'm like, all right, I got a couple more years of work, you know? But that was a really cool opportunity for me personally, just for my own personal motivation on the work that you put in and day out. And that little moment just keeps you going.
So before we transition into everything that you're doing now, James Wheeler, one of our viewers, asks, dream match, is there a dream match with any current WWE female wrestler? And if so, who and why?
Yes. So I love Charlotte Flair. I grew up watching Rick. It was an incredible opportunity to work with Rick. He taught me a very, very valuable lesson that I'll never forget. We were overseas, and we're doing a house show in a very random location. Normally overseas, all the shows are like oversold out. But this one wasn't so sold out for some reason. And he's backstage in his, you know, feathery gown, and he's warming up back there. And he had a nickname for me. He always called me Candice. And I was like, yes, Rick. And he'd be like, listen, you perform your best, whether there's one person out there or 100,000 at WrestleMania, because every single person used their hard-earned money to buy that ticket. Woo! I was like, wait, he's dropping knowledge and dancing. But it was a moment and a testament to why he's such a legend. And he would bring his daughter backstage here and there. I got to meet her, take her out one time. And I think she is truly incredible. Like, not because she's Rick's daughter, but because she's talented, she's fierce, she's incredibly in shape. Her character is phenomenal. And I think I could take a good ass whooping from her, to be honest.
Very important. Very important.
Very, very important.
Yeah.
We're going to transition. Let's transition into everything. You have so much that you're going now with Dr. KenGee, your husband. You guys are awesome. You guys have such a great dynamic. It's very easy to see how you have such a great family and a great rapport. And one of the big things that you have going right now is Good Champs, your podcast / YouTube show. I know that we took the time to watch it, and there were so many wonderful things that we took from that. And, you know, I just hear you talk your wrestling stories. It all just makes a lot more sense too, right? So can you talk about, you know, this point in your life now where it seems like you're doing a lot of advocacy for personal wellness and that kind of stuff. Can you talk about dedicating a lot of what you're doing now to that?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for taking the time to watch the show. It's called The Good Champs, and our motto is we're building a federation, wrestling, of like-minded people who like to train their asses off to live their life like a party. Now, what does that mean? It sounds kind of cool, but
I'm in.
I am great with training, right? Anything you want in life, you have to train for it. I'm all about putting in the work. We've been talking about that. Every time I've achieved my goal, which, by the way, I achieve all my goals. And the only way you don't achieve them is if you give up on them. So people are always like, oh, I want to be a millionaire, but I don't have what it takes. Or I want to, you know, have a six-pack, but I don't want to work out. Well, the reality is you got to train your ass off. But how do you do it in a way where it's not work? You know, I don't like that word work. Nobody likes to work. Work sounds like I got to do something I don't want to do. So I've really dived deep into my own life, because my sister said to me one day, she's 48, just turned 48, and she said, Candice, how come you always know what you want to do in your life? I'm 48. I think she was about 46 then. So I just wish I knew what I wanted so I could work for it. I thought, wow. We're same mother, father, like, why are we so different? Like, what makes that different? And I've always known what I've wanted. And I thought, what if I could help her? So she became my little test dummy. So I thank my sister for that. I ran all my programs through my sister. She's like, I don't know what I want to do still. I'm like, okay, back to the drawing board. What's going to work? But if I could help her, how many millions of people could I help? And now that was really intriguing to me, because I learned that when I won the championship, or when I achieved these goals, the title is an easy example, is how long does it last? It lasts for that moment. Some people, maybe a day, maybe a night. But after that, now I have a whole locker room full of girls chasing after me for that, hating on me, stabbing me in the back. Like, it's not all joyous after that moment anymore. But if I could get one of you guys to win the title that you dream of, that lasts a lifetime for me. And so I just shifted to, or I elevated to a different level of consciousness for myself and serving people. And I started off with these programs as I was creating them and putting them together. And then with the whole pandemic that hit, I thought, what if, I mean, my program's $21, but what if somebody can't afford $21? And then I thought, nobody even knows what I do. Like, they don't know this side of me. I mean, it's been a decade of me working, a good 5 years of creating this stuff, but nobody sees that work. So how can I give to others first? And so we started the show called The Good Chance. And it's free. It's a YouTube channel. It'll be a podcast. We just started it. But my husband and I, we've been together for 22 years. And we're fighting right now, by the way. So I'm happy to be on this show. I like to be real about these things because, you know, it looks so fun and romantic on Instagram, but I fight the hardest in our relationship. And that's why we've been together for 22 years. When I don't like something, I fight. I fight until we talk it out. I fight until we figure it out. I fight until there's a solution. You know, and so just being real with you guys on this show is the two of us. We're two characters living life and figuring it out and training our freaking asses off every day. And so we invite you guys to come join us and just find those tools and those tricks that we've worked decades on to make it this far in our life and in finances, in love, in health, in wellness, in all those areas, and we're just giving it to you guys.
Maddie?
That sounds awesome. The whole, you know, starting that whole brand and everything like that, you know, I was taking a look at some of the stuff that you guys have going on. You guys have things like the 21-day champ challenge, and then the podcast. Also, you have a 21-day COVID cleanse. What do you got going on with those?
So it takes 21 days for you to create a habit. This is scientifically proven. There is new evidence that says it takes 66 days. But if I tell you to do something for 66 days, you're probably not going to do it, especially if you've never done this type of work before. So I stick to the 21 days. I resonate with it. I feel like everybody thinks it's doable. And so what I do in my program is I have you create a new habit for 21 days. And it's simple. It's very simple. For instance, I will ask you, or you decide what it is, but like, let's say health is your major concern right now. An option would be to drink half your body weight in ounces of water every day for 21 days. Now, that's not rocket science. You can figure that out. This isn't like some people can do it, some people can't do it. But I'll take you on a journey for 21 days. I'll give you 21 stories from my life on all the lessons I've learned, and I'll give you tools on how to combat those things that knock you down, you know, those cutoff moments. And so you just get this wheelhouse of things, and you get it for a whole year. So if you want to do it in March and create a new habit, and then you want to do it again in April, that comes next, right? March, April, yep. Just imagine if you added 12 new habits to your life in 1 year. How would your life change in that year?
Big time.
Right?
Big time. Yeah, absolutely.
Just from the little things. I don't like it when people say I can't do something or I can't have something or don't do this. Like, you know, stop eating pizza and don't drink wine. Well, don't tell me to do that. Now I want to eat pizza and drink wine. That's terrible coaching. But what if I just told you to drink some water? Half your body weight in ounces. Figure it out. Right? Now all of a sudden there's a compound effect. Now you might want to work out. You might want to eat a little better. You will have better digestion. You will poop more. I love pooping, by the way. I mean, you know,
I guess that's what the COVID cleanse would fall into, that category.
There we go. But that one little habit gives you so much. And so when you have a dream and you break it down into tiny little things, now it's doable. You can be that millionaire. You can have that six-pack or whatever that party looks like to you. You know, like if I'm really fit, I feel like I'm living a party. You know, that's something important to me. You know, somebody might think it's important to become a father. And so how do you get those steps? Somebody might want a number 10 relationship. So what are those little things you can do to get there? And so it's all about breaking it down really simply and having fun doing it. Training, not working, training.
Gotcha.
Yeah, absolutely. Andy?
So I watched your first episode earlier today on my way home, and I'm a youth group advisor, so it was really cool to listen to you talk about how you take these certain things and you put them on you had the big calendar, and you put them on the calendar. They're non-negotiables. This is what we're going to do and everything like that. And it was more or less get your life together for a year. You know, our head of the youth groups has our favorite 4-letter word. It's time, right? There's only so much time that you're going to have to be able to do things. And it's figuring out what's important to you. It's not how much you can do, but it's more what you can do. And what got you into that, the calendar and everything like that, and breaking everything down to what's important for me in these moments, more so than just, all right, I'm going to go hang out with my friends right now. That's what I want to do, right? So how do you differentiate?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I love that that you have that word time, because the reason I have this calendar is I have a new relationship with time. And that relationship became, if the average person lives to 78, that's statistics, right? So if I'm 42, I'm going to do some math here. What is that, like? Is that 28 or 38 years?
36 years? You said 70?
Years.
You said 78 is the average?
36 years. So if I live for 36 more years, that means I only have 36 more summers with my kids. Now that is a relationship with time. So what am I going to do every summer if I only have 36 summers left with my 3 beautiful children? Like, I could cry just to think about that. What if you have a parent? I don't have any parents alive still, but what if they are 77 and you don't see them? What if you have only 1 more year to see them? Now that's a relationship with time. And so when I look at my calendar now, I have a different relationship with time. If I'm gifted to live that long, and hopefully longer is my goal, but we never know. And if you've ever lost somebody, I mean, I lost my mom. I've lost a lot of close people. You guys know a lot of wrestlers that I've lost. Their time's done. When you lose somebody close, you have a new relationship with time. And when you have children, that time is really important. So for me, it's about making memories, because you always do your work, right? We have to eat. We have to put a roof over our head. Well, most of us, a lot of Californians don't anymore. It's okay here now, but that's a different story. But you'll do those things because you need money to live. But you want to be able to live. You know, you want to put the memories on there. Like, you know, like I just did this week-long trip, a staycation in Huntington Beach with my kids, because it's a lot of work, you know, packing up the kids and homeschool and driving an hour and a half and living in a hotel room. But we got to do these bike rides with my kids down the beach, and we went and got in a sandstorm and we laughed about it. And we had a bonfire with marshmallows, but those are memories I'll never forget. And so it's worth the work to put those on the calendar. And my favorite thing, this calendar, by the way, is by Jesse Itzler. I train too. So I don't just coach, but I think the best coaches are always training. And I train with people all the time. And right now I'm training with Jesse Itzler, and he has this big ass calendar club. And so it's this big calendar, and he trains me once a month on things that he does and tools and tricks that he's learned. And he does this event, which is my Misogi. So a Misogi is your year-defining event. And my husband and I, we just signed up for it. It was really hard to sign up for. It's extremely expensive when 2 people do this. But we will be climbing Mount Everest, essentially. We will be climbing 29,029 feet, which is pretty much a marathon. By the way, I don't climb. I don't run. I like to train, but I'm scared of heights. Did I tell you I'm scared of heights? I just found out I gotta ride a gondola down after I make it up 2.5 miles. I gotta ride a gondola down to go back up. I was like, I don't ski because I don't like the gondola. I'm like, wow. But I got a lot of work to do, right? I can train for this event that will help me grow and discover areas of myself and my relationship with my husband that I never knew. I mean, we did a marathon last year. That was our Misogi last year. If you ever want to go to marriage boot camp, just take your spouse and train for a marathon. Pretty much kill each other. But we did it, and it was such an incredible time for us. It's a memory on that calendar that we'll never forget, and I'll never do a marathon again.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, to wrap that up, it's this relationship with time. We don't know how much time we have. And when you really think about it, at our age, I think we're generally near the same age. Maybe I'm a little older than you kids over here. But we don't have that much time when you look at it like that, and it's important to create a life worth living.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And I have to tell people it's really something that everybody should watch. I know myself personally, the things I resonated with was when you guys were talking about things like trips compared to vacations, right? Mm-hmm. You have to, you do things with your family and you plan these things out, your full vacations, but you have to have these intermittent periods where you do things for yourself. And these guys, they kid with me all the time, but I know I think they're kidding. My escape is I'm a big Disney guy. I have an annual pass, and my goal for this year is, with COVID, I take everything precautionary, and I've had my vaccine shots, but I would like to go down to Florida every 6 weeks. So starting on my birthday, middle of next month, I'm going to go down for a long weekend. And then I also have my family vacations planned in the summer and in November. So I kind of started resonating with a lot of that. And then again, when you talked about adding other things to your calendar, it was really powerful to kind of watch it and realize, okay, I have these things that I do for my own personal wellness that are really good, but there's definitely other things that I'm like, I could 100% add this in. It's not extremely difficult to do. When you think about it on your own, it sounds really hard. But when I was listening to you and Dr. KenGee talk, I just felt like, oh, you know what? It's really not that difficult to do this stuff if you just have the desire to do it. But what do you want we're going to wrap it up on this because I don't want to take up too much more of your time, Candice, but what do you want going forward, the legacy for this show to be for you guys, for you and Dr. KenGee? And again, tell him we said hello too, because we're big fans. He's already got a new follower on Instagram for me.
Awesome.
Loved hearing him talk, but can you just kind of talk about, overall what the overall vision of this is?
Yeah, and thanks for that. So I had a real big eye opener when I started my program, the 21-day camp last year. And originally I thought I had this kind of dialed in, and, as we continue to train, we're just always growing. And I thought, you know what, if I can impact one person with my program, all the work is worth it. And it really kind of hit home when Ashley Macero passed away. And I was like, and I was holding back my gift. I hold it back a lot. And actually, that's kind of why my husband's upset with me, is because we went on this vacation. I came home. I mean, it wasn't a vacation. It was a trip because I had all my kids. And last night, I was so exhausted. And I had a very lazy day. I didn't do my rituals. I didn't do all the get up early, do the workout, all the things that I preach about because I was exhausted from that. But I learned from Ashley that what if I could have helped her? What if my gift could have stopped that from happening? And you guys were talking about this as your sponsor on the show. So what if there's one kid, one adult, one human out there that hears something and it makes them not take their life, or it makes them live their party. And then this year, I got even clearer. Instead of even relying on that one person became myself. Because when I do that show every week, right now, I don't even know that we have 10 subscribers. I don't even know. I don't even know if there's one. I know last show, 5 people were on it live. But I was so happy by the end of that show. That show filled my cup up, and I have to fill up my cup first in order to fill up my kids' cup and my family and my husband. Otherwise, I feel like I'm in a trap, and I feel depressed, and I feel like I don't want to go on. But when I'm doing what I love to do, then it's a gift, and it's a gift to the planet. And so if it helps anybody, when you share these tips with me today, Michael, that, just help you kind of see these things, like, that fills my cup. Like, it's such a gift to me and my soul that it makes all the work worth it. I mean, if you would have seen us in there, the camera wasn't working, the sound didn't work like 1 second before getting on. Like, I got my kids into my friend's room, like shoving them out the door on scooters. One forgot the helmet, and I'm like, hey, let me motivate you. But at the end of the show, my husband and I were just so filled with gratitude and love and just hugging each other like it's all worth it. Every time it's worth it. And so I hope people will tune in because it's my gift. It's my way of being of service and a beneficial presence on the planet. And so I hope I can inspire people.
Well, I think I speak for all of us that you definitely are. It's wonderful to see all these fantastic things that you're doing now. I know you're a speaker. You're doing this wonderful thing with Good Champs. And, we've had a lot of comments in our comment sections down here with people that really appreciate all of your work and all the words that you guys have shared. So we want to thank you very much for coming on. This is the stuff that, honestly, that fills our cup, to have somebody like yourself come on. Great conversation about wrestling, but to be able to take more out of the conversation. So I know for myself, for Andy, for Maddie, for our viewers, and for Tom, who runs A2D, we want to thank you for coming on and joining us today. And we wish you and your family continued success, continued health through this crazy period of time right now. And my sister's got 2 kids; she's doing homeschooling too. So, and I've stepped in and helped out a few times. It's not an easy task. So, God bless you guys, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you guys so much for the opportunity. I feel really blessed, and you guys stay safe, and I love you guys. Thank you.
Oh, we love you. Before you go, tell us everywhere that we can find you. We obviously have www.CandiceMichelle.com. That's where you can find all about all the programs, all about the Good Champs and everything else. But where else can we find you on social media?
I'm on Instagram. I'm most commonly on there. It's a weird name because I can't get my name. I'm trying, but it's Mrs. _Candice _Michelle. So, but just punch in my name, you'll find it. Facebook is Candice Michelle. Everything gets posted there. And then YouTube is The Good Champs. So hopefully people can tune in and let me know what they want to see. What do you guys want to see? If we do, because so this next week is on beauty. On Friday, we're doing beauty for men and women organically. What do you guys want to see?
Well, I'm going to defer to Andy because I know Andy was talking a lot about. Well, you were telling me earlier about how he really took a lot from it and actually was talking about sharing it with the youth group and with the people so what do you think that would be beneficial there, Andy?
Oh God. And he's right. Like, as soon as I got home, I finished the episode. I texted him. I was like, I subscribed immediately, and this is going out to the youth group and the temple and everybody around me because I was able to take so much away from it and connect it to all aspects of my life. As far as what I'd like to see moving forward, and I don't know, right? Like, I'm kind of right now I'm in the space of my life where it's like, if it's gonna come at me, it's gonna come at me because it's supposed to come at me. Like, your show was given to me in this moment because I needed to hear these certain things to get my life where I need it to, with everything changing, right? So for me, I'm just gonna along for the ride and
love it.
I'm gonna connect to it with the way it's supposed to connect to me, organically.
I love it. Perfect. Well, if you guys ever think of something, you just hit me up and let me know. And also, if you ever want to do something with the youth group, I love speaking with children, and I mean, I take my kids on this journey all the time. And so if you ever want anything like that, I'm more than happy to be of assistance for that too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Candice. Take
Thank you,
care.
Candice.
Say hi to Dr. KenGee for us.
I will. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Well, guys, another great interview here on A2DRadio.com with former WWE Women's Champion and right now Champ Coach, doing amazing freaking things. And I hope that you guys enjoyed that. And I can tell you, it's all very genuine in what me and Andy are saying. I took the time to watch the first 2 episodes on YouTube, and I took a lot out of the stuff, both from her and from her husband, Dr. KenGee. So I highly suggest that you guys look it up, Good Champs on YouTube. Follow her on all of her social media. And pretty cool, Andy. You may have somebody who can speak to your youth group.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't have enough, and it's funny, we talked about time a lot today. I didn't have the time to call certain people like, this is what we're doing. We're doing something with this right now.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I'll make sure to share the contact information with Candice. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. I really did.
I had a blast.
Yeah, and I really do hope that people do follow and subscribe, because a lot of us, especially we're in a sports talk station, right? And a lot of us have a lot of pride, especially when you go in things like that Real Talk group where, there's a lot of bravado. There's a lot of bravado being thrown around. But the reality is,
especially with the current state of Philadelphia sports.
Yeah, you aren't kidding. But to take a step back sometimes, and we knew we were having Candice on, and it's as weird as it sounds, and it might sound maybe a little bit corny, but I don't care. You were talking, and I thought it was great that you said this, Andy. You were kind of talking about, I felt like, hearing something like that, you're just driving home and you're preparing for this, and you didn't expect it to hit you the way that it would, right? And there's stuff you could pull from it.
Mm-hmm. And it's so crazy. Like I was kind of thinking in my head, as I was getting ready, it's like, because so much is changing around me, and I always think, like, what more can I do? I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. And then it's like, I have to take that step back, and watching her say, all right, we'll plan this out and do this and put this on here. Don't put this on there because that's stuff you do all the time, but put this, and they're non-negotiables. They're locked in. And it was really powerful to just be able to say, oh, okay, that makes sense. And that makes sense. And I was able to tie it back to my day job of selling cars and all this other stuff. And it was really cool. It was insane.
Well, she brought up the point about work, right? And we were talking about work. And the whole thing of, I don't like the idea of work, right? We all have us here, we have our day jobs. And I'm not saying I don't like my work. But, when we do things like this, right? This is something that we love to do. And when we come on here and we get to talk to our viewers and our family here at A2D Radio, it's not work. This is to coin the term that she utilized, this is stuff that fills our cup, right? It makes us feel good to have a rapport with everybody, to be able to talk this stuff, have a little bit fun while we're doing it, bring awesome guests like her and the group that we've just had come through the entire month of February on the show. That stuff that's just like, you know what I mean? It makes every day a little bit better. So, I mean, really, really great stuff. And some great stories that she talked about from her pro wrestling days, getting back into the ring after 10 years. How she felt when she, basically destroyed her clavicle, which was, I was a big Candice Michelle guy personally.
Yep.
Big fan. I always have been, still even since then. But I remember that, and that was a tough pill to swallow back in those days. So, very, very, very cool time with her, and I hope everybody enjoyed that. Now, before we move on to our, well, you know what? Let me ask you guys. Well, no, let's do this. Let's do the sponsor read. Let's. I don't
know where we're going.
I was like, do we go back to the poll question? I think me and Candice kind of answered it already, but I would like to get your guys' answer on it. I feel like you guys are going to cop out and say, "Well, I'm going with her answer," but I certainly would like to hear your guys' answer. And again, let's pay some bills though first. We talked about it a lot, and really, what's great too, we keep talking about the counseling center and Sunrise Detox, guys. Second guest in a row who resonated to us having that conversation about that, because Larry also had conversations with us last week about, the state of how everything is. So, it's out there. It's not a secret anymore. People deal with mental health and addiction issues. And again, we are very happy to support the Counseling Center and Sunrise Detox. So if you or yourself need somewhere to reach out to, please do not hesitate. Call 856-651-8117. Reach out to those outlets. Take advantage of it. They're a wonderful, wonderful group over there that are doing great things. Also, obviously, our doctor, Dr. Paul Vidal, specialized physical therapy. You can find him in Burlington, Cherry Hill, and Princeton, New Jersey. You can find him on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. For all you athletes out there, recovery, any kind of issues, any body pains, aches, and all that you need to get taken care of, make sure you hit up the doc. He's the best in the business. He'll get you to where you need to be, get you back to feeling 100%. And also, back to the poll question, which is where I was like, well, are we going to do this? That's why I got confused, boys. I was like, are we going to transition? And I'm like, no, let's do the sponsors. But if we're going to do the sponsors, let's go back over the poll question that Body Check Wellness sponsors. So bodycheckwellness.com. Promo code A2D is going to get you 20% off. And when former Philadelphia Flyer Riley Cote joins the Hockey Happy Hour, there's a lot going on in my mind at that moment, guys. When Riley Cote joins the Hockey Happy Hour, they have a special package that they offer 40% off. So we want to make sure that you guys are checking that out as well at bodycheckwellness.com. And that poll question was, the women's conversation point was, women's revolution in pro wrestling is the most important era of the last 20 years. Agree, disagree? I agree. Although I also go along with what Candice said in terms of it's hard to peg it. I personally incorporate the women's revolution to even back to her time. So I think that's maybe where maybe I didn't explain that well enough. But I look at, and I think I cleared it up a little bit. Candice herself mentioned the bra and panties matches, the pudding matches, and all that stuff that she had to endure, at that time when it was the thing. But she was also a part of that era where we started to turn the corner, where her and Beth Phoenix were starting to put on quality matches, where you started to get that deeper roster. Natalia eventually started to come around that time. Trish Stratus, Lita, all these people. So I ask you boys, I'm going to defer to Maddie here. Do you agree or disagree that the women's revolution is the most important era of the last 20 years?
Well, before I answer that, did you check the chat about you showing action figures?
Oh, shit. I should have. I didn't. I had my phone down. Who is it? Don?
No, it was Brian. It was who was the other one? It was Troy.
Said it. Taylor Bowers said it. Joey DiBardino said it. I was like, and I'm sitting over here going, "Don't show it. Don't put it on screen. Don't put it on screen."
What about me playing?
It's okay because now that the
yeah.
So now that the interviews. Now that the interview's over, now we can stop behaving.
Well, wait.
For the love of God, they're in arm's reach? Hold up.
One is.
Hold up. Oh, you've never done this with me on camera before. Why are they in arm's reach?
This is on top of my dresser, and the way I'm set up, I have it over here.
I'm not going to lie, though. That's badass.
The other ones are in a bag in my closet. I could get up. They're right over there. But
No. It's okay. It's totally okay.
We'll talk. We'll see what happens.
Still, though, pretty badass, though. You got that Undertaker one.
Somebody can answer the poll question. Go ahead.
Sure. Okay.
Oh God, he's going to get the blasted figures.
All right.
You want it, Maddie, or you want me to go first?
I'll go. Since it's my
geez.
fault, we're going down this route. All right.
Yeah.
So for me, you know, honestly, in pro wrestling wise, I actually agree. I think that in the last like 20 years, you know, at least in America, you know what I mean? Like when we talk about pro wrestling and women's pro wrestling in the United States, it wasn't really a.
There's such an issue. Like you're like 7 years old.
Oh man. And he's muted.
Plenty of time for this, boys.
Oh my God. What are we gonna have an action figure fashion show?
Who you
Oh,
want? Who
God.
You want the boss man?
No, I don't
You
want the
boss
boss
man?
man.
What, you don't want to serve hard time? You don't want to go, don't
I
want to go
gotta
to
find my
Cobb
other
County?
one. I gotta find my other ones that I have put away.
But yeah, so
Speaking of, since we're plugging past shows and stuff, go back. We have 2 episodes featuring our boy Bushwhacker Luke here.
oh,
This is now his 10th appearance here on A2D Radio.
Wait, who's had more appearances? Bushwhacker Luke or Tito?
Oh no,
Ooh.
Tito used to be a part of every show. That Tito picture I had, used to
Yeah.
be a part of every show.
yeah, I remember that.
Tito's got the record even before we were on A2D Radio, when it was the old podcast and YouTube show, where he was in always strategically placed. He was like my Woody Page dry erase board or chalkboard behind me. There was always Tito always had to find a spot in the background.
Oh, well, yeah. So that okay. So maybe we shouldn't have the Rick Bret Hart countdown thing. We should have the Tito one instead.
No.
Oh, stop it! I love Tito. He was a great guest on here. He accepted my WrestleMania challenge.
He did.
And then he never showed.
Did.
Then he never showed.
It was a
So you
pandemic, you nut.
I would have been there.
Oh, for the love.
So
All
neither of you no showed.
Yeah,
Neither
nobody
of you no showed. You're both guilty. You're both. It's a draw.
He wasn't showing up. It's not my fault.
Oh, so you should still shown up.
You
Hey,
could have
guys.
won by count out then. You could have just had the referee count him down, and then there you go. Problem solved.
Hey guys, can we focus, please? Can we bring it back to center here?
That's the guy that just pulled out his action figures. Okay.
Please pull it
All
back
right,
to center.
all right. Okay, I'll fish it back.
Let's
Okay,
bring it
so
back to
here's
the
my
adult.
answer. Here's my answer to the poll.
Listen, I collect action figures. Okay, they're in a bag, still from when I bought them. But I always pull the bag out when people make comments about them, and I'll continue to do that. I will continue to pull the action figures out at request.
Such a child.
So you can fill
Wait till
out
I
your
start,
request.
wait till I start doing a segment where I have a match here while you guys are talking.
Oh my God, that's gold. But anyway,
Should I?
back.
So for what I was gonna say,
Should we relive WrestleMania 6?
6. Where was it at?
The Toronto the Skydome, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
what a
me,
dumb question.
I
What an
would
easy question.
I would agree with the poll question because, especially for this country, you know, like I mean, when you think about wrestling in the global side of things, for a long time, women's wrestling in the United States, it was here for a little while in the territories, but then obviously as time went along, you had Sherry, and then you had Alundra Blaze, but then after that, it kind of went by the wayside. WCW never really had a women's division. They played with the idea, but they never went full bore with it. WWE killed its women's division midway through the 90s. And then you went through that period where it was literally just the bra and panties matches. The women's title there was a evening gown women's title match where Deborah won the title, and stuff like that. So you go through that period. And finally, it was kind of like a rebirth in the U.S. of, through the indie scene, and even Impact, they get a shout out for that because they established the Knockouts division. And then you finally got the women's division in WWE finally starting to catch on and realize, you know what? let's go with women's wrestling. Women's wrestling can be more than just the eye candy. It can be the let's have a great match between two great athletes. You know, I feel like that finally got rebirthed in the United States over the last 20 years, where it was seen mostly just as a Japan thing or a Europe thing or something you see in Mexico, not something that you see in the United States.
Yeah, and you know what, Maddie, to your point too, like people don't realize the background that some of these people have, right? So look at Candice Michelle. Candice Michelle was an athlete when she was younger. Like there's a lot of them that have athletic backgrounds, and we just hit that kind of era. And I always say, I've said it 1,000 times, I say it again. Attitude Era was a blessing and a curse because it pushed so many envelopes to where, yes, it produced these iconic moments and stars, but it also almost set a lot of things back society-wise. And it's not a cancel culture thing or anything to say that. There was a time, and it's been acknowledged many, many times, where there was an FU attitude of society at that time. And there was a desire to push the edge on everything. And I think that we've kind of pulled that back a little bit. And again, some of the stuff from that era doesn't stand the test of time. You know, some of the Jerry Lawler comments on commentary don't stand the test of time.
More than a few.
Yeah. So, I mean, you go back and you look at it and then to see what it's become, Maddie, to give women, and again, people knock a lot of, have knocked a lot of the women in those generations. When you really go back and do your homework on a lot of them, they're athletes.
Yeah.
They work very hard. Everybody looked at Trish Stratus as an eyepiece, as eye candy. Had no idea how much work she put in the fitness world and everything else, the athletic background that she had. And it's a shame it took so long to get to where it was. But again, thank God for people like Trish and Lita and Candice Michelle and Beth Phoenix and Natalia and so many women of that era, Eve Torres, who changed the view of what women's professional wrestling could look like, at least in the mainstream. I mean, I think independent wrestling, and you mentioned Japan, Maddie, you know, it had.
It had.
You know, but to change it on a mainstream, worldwide, global view, I think was really important. Medusa, how can I not mention? I mean, Medusa was ahead of her time.
Yep.
Phenomenal.
Yep. It's a shame that,
Sherry
you
Martel.
know. Yeah. And I was going to say, it's a shame that she wasn't around today. Because imagine the matches that Medusa or Alundra Blaze, whichever one you want to use, would have had with, you know, Charlotte Flair or whatever. They would have been great matches.
I would pay 1,000 times over to go to WrestleMania to see Charlotte Flair and Medusa in a main event match. And I'm not even exaggerating. If they close those two in their prime, one-on-one, or you want to add Becky Lynch or somebody like that to a main event at WrestleMania, dude, that is money.
Just don't have it be 8 hours after we walked in the stadium.
Oh,
yes, at least not do that.
It wasn't the 8 hours getting into being in the stadium, Andy. It was the 6 hours trying to get out of the stadium.
Says the guy sitting in the cushy suite. We were in cheap stadium seats. It was not
right,
fun.
but you also have more built-in cushioning than I do to help cushion your ass.
What you trying to say there, Chrome?
I'm saying you got more built-in insulation over there, FWL.
I see where we took this.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is what we like to call subtlety.
No, it's not.
That's actually the opposite of subtlety.
No, I know.
That's called extreme bluntness.
Listen, this is like the king. This is the Hogan of the FWO over here, so he thinks.
I know, because I'm not about to fight Pete.
You're like the Horace Boulder then?
No. Wow. Why are we taking shots, man?
I'm just saying.
Would you shut up down there?
No, Disciple's an upgrade. I was definitely going. Maybe Vincent.
Okay.
Sitting in corners by yourself at tables, hanging out at Olive Garden. I love you, buddy. You know that.
Anyway,
you go. You love me. Yes.
My answer to the poll question,
This is the longest running poll question of all time, by the way.
No kidding. No, I don't know. Larry had a really long answer not Larry, Nick, 2 weeks ago.
Nick, yeah, he did have about a 23-minute straight answer, which was phenomenal as well.
Exactly. I see. I have to agree with this answer. With this poll, women's revolution in pro wrestling is the most important era of the last 20 years. I really do, because while we expected so much, not so much, but we got what we expected with the men each and every week, right? The men's wrestling, it didn't really 180 too much, right? It kind of has always stayed the course. There's been changes in what the fad is as far as how the matches are done, or are we more high flyer? Is it more striking, or whatever the case may be? But women's wrestling took such a 180, to you guys' point, in 2004, 2005, that era when we got away from the bra and panty matches, the pudding matches. You saw Trish and Lita really coming into their own. Beth Phoenix, Candice, Michelle, and all these other people coming into the industry. And how they've evolved. They started at ground zero in the WWE. And now we had, 2 years ago, they were headlining WrestleMania. They had their own pay-per-view. They've done their own Elimination Chambers. They've done their own Royal Rumbles and so many different things to that effect. So I think this is the most important era of the last 20 years, bar none. No disrespect to the men, no disrespect to anybody else that stepped in between those ropes, but the women across the entire industry have truly killed it and have truly set the bar to where it is now. And yeah, Candice makes a really good point. You don't have what we have now without the work that's been put in throughout the generations. Totally understandable. But it's the people like herself, Trish, Lita, Beth, Natalia, Eve, and then you start getting into more current superstars, Charlotte, Sasha, Bayley. I could keep going for another 20 minutes of people that have really changed the game for women's wrestling. And I think without that, we don't have the product that we have now. Because they got better, it forces the men to get better. There was a clip posted earlier today on HUD about competition, for Jalen Hurts. And I went back and forth with Tom about it. I think the competition's great, right? So when the women get better, the men have to get better, and so on and so forth. So now we're just climbing that ladder, and it's great to see.
Yeah, and can you remember an era? And again, it's overdue, by the way. Can you remember an era when the 4 Horsewomen and Ronda Rousey were the hottest talked about wrestling topic, bar none, across, where Charlotte was in conversations for years about not just being the best female wrestler, but the best wrestler in the world? You never saw that. And again, that comes off of the backs of the Sherry Martells, the Alundra Blaze or Medusas, even the Missy Hyatts. You can really go back. Even the women's, the Miss Elizabeths, who weren't even given the chance to step in the ring. They were considered valets, when you look at those kinds of people. Women did step in the ring a little bit, but you had times where it was just valets and that kind of stuff. And to see how it progressed. And again, we have these women, particularly in the early 2000s, who finally started to buck that trend and get it to where we can be at a point in the world where a woman can be considered the best at their job, bar none. Not just professional wrestling, but anybody. Where Ronda Rousey could be considered the best fighter in the world, let alone women's fighter. It's awesome. It's wonderful to see. Where you talked about Kerry Walsh and Misty May Traynor being the best beach volleyball players in the world. These iconic women now. It's made it better. And again, to your point, Andy, competition breeds success. And whether it's company versus company, or the women are motivated to establish their place in the world and in the industry, right? You got to, now the men got to push, because guess what? They took your headlines, boys, and rightfully so. So you want to take them back, you got to step up, and you got to compete with each other. And you have a whole new group of people who are long overdue to be put on that same level as you. It's pretty awesome. I think it's the most important era, maybe ever, aside from maybe the rock and wrestling era, simply because that's what made it a global phenomenon. To where they could even have a platform at all to do this. So really cool, really great topic. I know we've been meaning to talk about this, and I thought we had an ideal, perfect guest to come on and talk with us. So I'm really glad we were able to do that. And again, I want to thank Candice for her time to come on, talk to us about the Good Champs. And I know I'll be watching weekly, and you guys will be as well.
Definitely.
And I'm telling you guys, check it out on YouTube, Good Champs. I promise you'll be able to pull something from it. Pete's chiming in here. Yo, fam, got to catch the interview on the rebounds. Do it, brother. And I'm telling you right now, Pete, go to YouTube, subscribe, Good Champs.
Here, I'm just
And by the way, guys, A2D, subscribe to A2D on there too. If you're on there and you're watching, you haven't liked the video yet on YouTube, pound the likes. If you're here on Facebook, share the video around. Please make sure that this gets seen. This is a special conversation that we had with Candice. I think a conversation that a lot of people need to hear, particularly at this time in the world right now. So, but moving on, couple little odds and ends. And, I'm not going to do a full recap. I know, Andy, you have your recap show that you're going to be wanting to do. But, I almost wanted to do 2 poll questions, guys. I'm not going to talk the whole Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, Andy. That's your bag. But my question here is, in terms of Elimination Chamber, first question is, The Miz deserves to be the WWE champion. We're going to have a little on-the-fly second question here. Agree, disagree. Let's play around. Let's play agree to disagree.
All right.
You don't have to give me a long explanation. I'm going to ask you guys a couple of questions that are going to be related to either Elimination Chamber or to Raw that followed up. And that's how we're going to do this recap, all right?
Okay.
First things first, Miz wins WWE Championship. Long overdue. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
Agree. Yeah, I'll go with that.
I agree. I think it's 2 years overdue. Should have been done 2 years ago. They killed his momentum with what started out as a great feud with Shane McMahon and turned to an absolute disaster. So I agree. I almost feel like he's a victim of the time that it is, because you got a red hot Bobby Lashley right now.
But
So go ahead.
I don't think he's a victim of the time, because if we're building Lashley, and I've talked about this in another chat that I'm in, if we're building up Lashley as strong as we have been, well, who better for him to beat than someone like The Miz, who, as of Sunday night, is one of the first 2-time Grand Slam champions. He's arguably one of the most decorated. We've talked about it on all shows. Arguably one of the most decorated wrestlers on the roster right now, and maybe of all time. So I don't think he's a victim of the time. I think he's going to be there to put Bobby in what's the word I'm looking for? In a successful position for the plans they have for Bobby at Mania.
But my point I'm making, though, Andy, is that he's a victim of time, because I believe The Miz deserves an extended run. But the time that you're in right now, it's clear that they're pining for this moment in front of fans for Drew, that they keep hot-shotting the belt off of him and then putting it back on. And I'm not saying Drew doesn't deserve that moment. I do think him in front of fans is a game changer. But that being said, I have to then go back again and I have to ask, is he a victim of time? Because Bobby Lashley is incredibly hot. To me, Bobby Lashley is the number one guy on Monday Night Raw right now, and it's not even close, even over Drew. He is dominant. He is everything he needs to be. He is dominant. He is forceful. When he speaks, it has meaning and conviction. And then he also has an incredible mouthpiece to do the rest of the work for him. Everything is there right now for Bobby Lashley. So, is Miz a victim of time? Timing. Let's say timing.
Timing. I could give you timing. I see your argument, and I could give you timing.
So I agree it's overdue. I agree to the second question. Miz is a victim of the timing. Yes, agree. Go ahead, Maddie.
I was going to say, I would say he definitely would be a victim of timing for the simple fact of, now you put the championship on him when you should have put the championship on him when he was getting that momentum build up as a babyface, or at least you should have had him get up to that point again, and you didn't follow through on that. And so because of that, you really killed his momentum, and then you built him back up, and now you're putting him in a spot where you're talking about Bobby Lashley, then you talk about Drew, who's now a wild card in this whole thing. Does he get the championship back at Mania now? You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those of, like, now you put the title on him, but now what's your plan with it? What are you doing with it? Are you going to take the title right off him? Because if you take the title right off him, that serves no purpose whatsoever.
Personally, I think they have completely screwed up the Money in the Bank this year. Completely screwed it up. We mentioned it before. I think they tried to go with they tried to capitalize on a moment with the flavor of the moment in I can't remember his damn name now. Otis. Good Lord, that's how bad it's gotten. They tried to capitalize on the flavor of the month on Otis. Didn't stand the test of time. Didn't age well. So they have this ridiculous circumstance to take it off of him, put it on Miz. Then Miz cashes it in. They have another ridiculous circumstance to allow him to keep it, only to have him lose it right before Mania. Like, I would have rather them did this. I would have rather them did this 2 months ago. And then have Drew chase, or have him do it at Rumble.
Yeah.
That way Drew's not in the Rumble. Mm-hmm. But you can have Drew do what he needs to do. Have him chase up until Mania, and then maybe have Miz drop it to Lashley in the Elimination Chamber. But this hot shot now, I saw Matt popped up on here, and he said that he thinks that Miz is going to lose it at Fastlane.
I 100,000,000% agree with Matt here. I don't know if I said it on the air last week,
right?
But Bad Bunny is a factor, and if he doesn't cost Miz the title next week, it's definitely happening at Fastlane. And in fact, you and I were talking about it. You, me, and Pete. We're talking about it the other night, and I said Bad Bunny's a factor.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, okay? And I don't hate the Bad Bunny stuff. Believe it or not, I don't. I respect the fact that the guy is an actual fan. I respect the fact that he shows up every week. It's not a Demi from The Bachelorette who's just sitting there
pointless
for one reason or another. He took the title to SNL and featured it during his entire song at SNL. Pretty damn good branding, I'm just saying. But I respect the guy's hustle, and I don't have a problem incorporating celebrities into the WrestleMania picture. However, to hotshot the title off of Drew, only for Miz to lose it 2 weeks later, only for Lashley to lose it 2 weeks later than that, sounds like a terrible idea. Terrible way to build WrestleMania programs. Now, again, I mean, in a real world, it's possible, I guess. Someone could win a title and lose the title the next week. I mean, in reality, you're probably not going to win every game that you do. We don't see undefeated seasons very often. So I get it, but it's to me, it devalues the title. It's so clear what they're pining for to get for Drew, and they could have did it in at least in a way that the time frame would have been a little bit better than hot potatoing it every 2 weeks.
Like you were talking about, you go back to Rumble and you do it. You could, Drew's not in it, but then Drew could win the Elimination Chamber in February, and he gets a shot at, Miz at WrestleMania or whatever. You can go whatever route you want to with that, and then you have time for Miz to build up his run with the title. Get him some wins over, anyone who you think would have a really great match with him. And then have that big matchup at WrestleMania. Since you were going to have Edge versus Roman, that's not a factor.
Yeah, oh man. I definitely think all of this should have happened a lot sooner than it did, right? I ultimately see, no matter what we think's going to happen, there's that voice still inside my head that says, if they're allowing fans at WrestleMania, the title goes back on Drew. If they come out and they say, hey, you know what? We've decided, no, we're not going to do fans for whatever reason.
Oh, they're going to do fans.
And don't get me wrong, right? I ultimately think they're going to do fans. But the world we live in now, this is a very viable conversation to have of if something changes between now and then, where they don't do fans, I think WWE holds off and keeps the title on Lashley.
See, now, I'm not ruling out, guys, that Drew costs Lashley this match. We get Drew versus Lashley, simple one-on-one at WrestleMania, non-title. And I am not ruling out the fact that we might get either champion versus champion. You know where I'm going with this.
Go on.
Miz versus Bad Bunny.
I know where you were going with this, but continue.
Or Miz versus Damian Priest at WrestleMania. One-on-one for the WWE Championship.
I thought about that too when I saw that Miz had won. I thought, are they trying to backdoor in Damian Priest here? Because it's not out of the realm of possibilities that they would try it.
I don't hate that idea.
I don't know how to process that idea because, we have taken dump after dump after dump on walking vanilla extract that is Damian Priest. But with this Bad Bunny thing, you are seeing a little bit more from him, right? My only concern is, are they going to make me care enough to say, that's a WrestleMania main event I want to watch?
I think so. I see, Andy.
But again, I'm so conflicted because I don't necessarily hate the idea, but I'm also not like, oh yeah, let's do that.
See, what do we have here? Prism says, Prism 280. Not gonna lie, I just went and checked out Bad Bunny's songs real fast. My Spanish is limited, but his music thumps not as bad as I assumed. I agree. By the way, there are songs I liked both of his songs that he did on SNL. Not going to lie. But listen, I have been extremely critical of how Damian Priest has been presented in NXT. I'm not going to run from that. To me, he was Baron Corbin 2.0. I liked Baron Corbin before this King Corbin thing. I think it has ran its course. I think it's terrible. I don't know why they're still doing it. But it is what it is, okay? I said it on this program. The moment he was called up, I said, I feel like Damian Priest works on the main roster. I feel like that's where he should be. I didn't feel like he fit in NXT. But adding that and then adding his size and his look and his crossover appeal to the Latino community of wrestling fans, there is a lot to put behind Damian Priest. And I don't hate the idea. I would be interested to see it. It could end up being a Jinder Mahal experiment and crashing and burning. Or This could be one of the most brilliant things that they've done for a long time. And think about if Priest carries it to SummerSlam or Survivor Series, and then you get Drew. Because what I would love to see now, okay? Let's play a little fun fantasy booking. Let me bend your ears for a minute. Whereas my boy LA Knight says, let me talk to you. Okay? Let's go along with that. Damian Priest, Miz WrestleMania, Damian Priest wins the title. What I would like to see now, they've gone this whole Drew's disrespected thing. He's thrown in the Elimination Chamber, even though Roman didn't have to go in the Elimination Chamber. And by the way, I'm just going to say this, Andy. That was complete disaster the way they did that.
1,000,000%.
Complete waste of the first chamber just to job out Bryan to get to Edge. They could have did that a million different ways. Complete and utter disaster.
Not to lie, though, when Bryan locked him in the yes lock, it caught me, like, right out the gate. It caught me so off guard that I actually did pop and scared the hell out of some friends that I had here. But I popped and I got into it and I went, wait a minute, no, I'm a rep. I know how this plays out. And I got so depressed in that moment. I went, I'm done.
I feel like I don't even care that Bryan won the match, guys. I feel like he deserved better than that. It made no sense to me.
The only way that you could do that and make it make sense is if, if there wasn't a pay-per-view in between Mania and Elimination Chamber, if you weren't going to have Edge face Roman, you would have been able to pull that off if Bryan wound up being the guy to dethrone Roman at WrestleMania. But even right now, you wouldn't. I don't know if you would do that because of Roman's momentum right now.
Yeah, not a fan of how that transpired, but I digress. So we get Priest, he gets it. Drew starts to get a chip on his shoulder, and we slowly start to see Drew turn a corner. And I think maybe SummerSlam Survivor Series, you start seeing that badass heel Drew start to return. And you get a heel Drew versus Damian Priest. Bro, their size, I think that's got money all over it. Especially give Priest a decent run. Let him really establish himself on the main roster. I'll tell you what, I mean, again, it's really early to say with Priest on the main roster, but it wouldn't shock me if that, by the time that would present itself, people wouldn't be clamoring to see that matchup.
Maybe.
I mean, honestly, I like Drew as a heel. I thought he was very, very good as a heel. Just being intimidating, walking around, just like, don't screw with him. He'll beat the hell out of you. That's not a bad Drew. He destroyed Moxley on the way out, Ambrose. True. So to me, I think like it's definitely doable, and I think that would definitely be a good run for him with the title. We've had him as a babyface. Now let's do it with the heel.
And listen, you want to play story, if you want to have story continuity, the whole thing with the cameraman in the Elimination Chamber. Get out of the way. I told you to get out of the way. Like, you start showing these kinds of frustrations in Drew to where he starts to lose a little bit of that focus, starts to lose his head a little bit. I'm telling you, I need to get a job. I need a job with WWE. I'm telling you that right now. Anything else? Any news? Oh, by the way, Charlotte promo with Ric Flair. I need to get reactions from you guys.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, Andy, how could you not be prepared for that?
Because, I was at work till about 9 o'clock my time.
I don't want to hear it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't want to hear it. It was phenomenal. Go back, check it out. We'll talk about it on Saturday if I can hop on with you. If not, I'll be in your chat running.
Yeah, definitely.
But I can tell you right now, it was definitely a worked shoot, I suppose. Maddie, you didn't see it either, did you?
No, because
Maddie,
you know me, you know me already. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So. I was not aware of that, Andy. Nobody told me that.
Okie dokie.
So, anyway, boys, great show today. Why would they plan that with him? I'll talk to you offline. Great show today, guys. And Maddie, we'll see you on Hockey Happy Hour this week. Andy, we'll see you on In This Very Ring. I'll be on tomorrow with the ladies.
Go.
So we want to thank Candice Michelle again for coming on. We appreciate her time. Awesome time with Candice Michelle. And obviously, for our sponsors, the Counseling Center, Sunrise Detox, we love them very much. If you or yourself is having issues with mental health, addiction issues, you yourself or anybody that you know, please don't hesitate to call that number, 856-651-8117. We are very, very proud to support them, and they have a wonderful thing going there. Also, Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy. Find him in Burlington and Cherry Hill, New Jersey. You can find him on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. No appointment necessary, so make sure you guys checking out the doc. And also, Maddie's Boys, bodycheckwellness.com. Promo code A2D gets you 20% off. And when former Philadelphia Flyer joins the Hockey Happy Hour, they have a special package that they run, 40% off with their promo code that you can catch on that show. For myself, and again, subscribe to the Good Champs. I'm telling you, it's freaking worth it. For myself, Ritz, Maddie, and for Candice, thank you again. Guys, take care and have a great week. We out.